Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep the Mining podcast. And today's guest is Benedikt Kirchgässler, who's the CEO and founder of CyanoGuard, a company that manufactures and provides the best solution for safe and efficient cyanide monitoring and management within the mining industry. Their mission is to maximize toxic reagent usage, greenhouse gas emissions, and improve precious metal recoveries for gold mines by providing a reliable, user-friendly, and intelligent real-time cyanide monitoring and optimization solutions. Benedikt has got a background in biochemistry and biotechnology, and is obviously the founder of the company, and he's here today to tell us more about the company and how mining companies can benefit from their products and solutions. So let's welcome Benedikt to the podcast. How you doing, Benedikt?
Good. How you doing, Rob?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. And yeah, appreciate you taking the time to come onto the podcast to obviously tell us more about the products and solutions and services that you can provide. So I wondered if you can give our audience a little bit of a background about yourself. I suppose how you got into this and how you got into mining, and tell us a little bit about the company.
Sure. So first of all, Rob, thanks for having me. Very excited to be on the podcast today. So about me, I've first when I went out of school, I did a business degree and I worked in banking, and then I did a switch and went into chemistry. And sort of at the end of my studies, I was working on the base technology that we have, which is basically the compound which analyzes which senses cyanide. And we were initially set out on a very different path. We were more focused on sort of analytical chemistry, sort of using it in food safety monitoring. But very early on, in about 2017, a Peruvian mine contacted us to inquire whether we could adapt our solution for the mining industry. Until that time, I had no idea really about the mining industry. I knew a lot about cyanide, but not that much about the mining industry. And it actually turned out that they had a huge issue with monitoring it accurately, meaning that they get the right results in the right time for the process. And that's sort of how we got into this. Like back in 2017, we didn't really have a ready-to-use solution for the mining industry, but we've been working on it. And back in the end of 2018, we had the first prototype. And since a couple of months now, we have already the first mines that are using the technology on a full-scale basis.
Okay. So how do CyanoGuard's process monitoring solutions actually help the gold mining companies? I wonder if you can just work us through the actual process.
So you know, just in a high-level summary, what our technology does, it helps the mine to monitor the cyanide process better and therefore control it better, and by better control, they can optimize it and also make the right decisions to get an optimal and most efficient output. In essence, what it does is it helps mines to determine the cyanide concentration accurately in real time. It only takes a few seconds. And with knowing the accurate cyanide concentration, they know whether they have too much or too little. Because if you have too much cyanide, you waste toxic and very expensive cyanide, which you didn't have also to remove from the process again if you want to discharge your process water. On the other hand, it also helps you to identify instances where you do not have enough cyanide. And the result of not having enough cyanide means that you cannot extract all the gold from a process, from the ore. And that leads to losses in the end and makes the process less efficient. This is where we come in. We, on the one hand, help them to not overuse cyanide, and at the same time also use enough cyanide to extract all the gold. That's sort of on the process monitoring and process optimization part. On the other hand, since cyanide is always like a very controversial topic because many communities are afraid of any incidents, it also helps to provide more safety because it's like a real-time monitoring solution, meaning you see in real time what your concentrations are. And if you would see, for example, that some concentrations is way higher than it should be, you can take action right away, not only like a couple hours later if you would do it in a lab, which is probably not on site. So you have the ability to know what's going on with your process at any time.
Okay. And why does it matter for companies to sort of become more digital and embrace these sort of technologies?
I think this is a very good question, because as we talked about before, is that the future demand for metals will be growing like never before, in my opinion. You have all this electric mobility, like all these electric cars, and only cars, also trucks will become more and more electrified. But at the same time, the amount of metals is finite. There is not, like an unlimited amount of metals to go around. So the only way to satisfy this growing demand is to become more efficient. And in my opinion, the only way to do this is to use more efficient technology. And a lot of that technology is really digital. And I think there's also one of the big opportunities for the mining industry, because for the past decades, mining has not really focused that much on efficiency or like embracing new technologies. And this is now the opportunity for metal producers, for gold producers, to embrace these technologies and going forward. That's the first point. And also the second point, really, when you look at the mine, the key performance indicator is really, if you look at the all-in sustaining costs. I think it's going beyond that. Also the safety record of the mine is very important for shareholders, as well as the sustainability aspects. And I think there's a lot of technology out there that's already used in other areas that can help mines become more sustainable and become safer.
Okay. And obviously with your products and services, do you have any sort of rough figures as in terms of the cost savings, as obviously as a percentage?
Yes. So what we have experienced, like on average, is that we can reduce the chemical cost. It's not only cyanide, but also to a certain extent pH controlling substance like lime. By 20%, we can reduce that. And on the gold recovery side, we have seen that we can improve it up to 2 to 3%. And that depends always on the size of a mine. But usually looking at the return on investment of using our technology between, I would say, 2 to 5, if you have a larger site, up to 10 million per year.
Okay, so pretty significant figures for any company.
It's pretty significant at this stage, and we want actually to go even further and also look at other parameters in the gold extraction process. So we hope that within the next, let's say, 24 to 36 months, we can even increase that further.
Yeah. And what do you feel is the biggest strength for with your company right now?
It's really that we've gotten to the stage where we are right now. We've been able to build a very easy to implement and quickly scalable process monitoring solution. Why quickly scalable? Normally, if you look at other equipment that does that, it's usually stuff that needs to be installed. You have huge CapEx expenses, you need an installation, you need constant maintenance. And our technology just works straight out of the box and is very focused on what the customer really needs. And I think this is like our core strength, that we achieved this point. And this would not have been possible without our team and our partners in the mining industry that always provide us feedback. Because what we were doing is we were always testing a prototype, listening, seeing, okay, does this work? Does this help you to do your process better? And then testing it again. And I think this is how we got to this point, and what's also our strength now, that we have a solution which is really tailored to the operator, to the mine site's needs.
And is there a reason why you focused on the mining industry?
Yes, it's actually what I mentioned at the beginning. So it's actually a mine from Peru that approached us.
Got you.
And we were, at the beginning, we were just trying to figure out what is exactly that I want to do. So I traveled there with my team back in 2017. And we looked at it and we started building the solution. And I was completely unaware at the beginning of the mining industry, but the more I've learned about the application of cyanide and how the gold extraction process is done at the moment, I realized that we can actually have a huge impact, and there's also huge potential in the mining industry. And that was only the beginning in about 4 years ago. And right now, with all this, interest in like this huge growth that we see in the mining sector, it's a very, very huge opportunity.
Yeah.
On the other hand, what I have to say, there's very few startups in the mining industry, which is somewhat there's a good explanation for that, because mining industry is usually very conservative when it comes to adapting novel technologies, so that makes it more difficult. But once you get to the point that you have a relationship with miners, that they're interested in technology, it's very, very interesting, very, very rewarding, because we see that our solutions, they really make an impact for the daily work of the operators that we work with.
Yeah, I mean, I do think mining companies are starting to embrace technology even more, no matter whether that's in a corporate perspective or a site perspective. I think they are starting to increase their awareness around technology, and obviously making improvements is always something that's important to the industry. So hopefully they are taking note, and I think obviously your product does sound something that companies should know more about. What do you think some of the biggest challenges in the mining industry that you see that the industry will face over the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
I think it's actually what you just mentioned, you know, that companies who are starting to embrace novel technologies and digitalization, I think this will be a determinant factor for miners, for listed companies, whether they are first movers or whether they are late to the party. Because as I said, it's not getting easier getting the metals out of the ground. You know, the deposits, they're getting more complicated, they're getting more remote, it's more difficult to get energy there, to build up a site there. And so you have to become more efficient. And the earlier you start with this, and the earlier you embrace this reality, the better it's going to be. At the same time, it's also health and safety dimension. As you cannot work the way you worked before. Like health and safety, these dimensions have a huge impact on how a mining company is viewed by investors. And in order to be successful, to embrace novel technologies, mines need to have a good reputation. They need to have access to capital to be able to access these more complicated deposits. So to sum up, I would say it's like this efficiency, new technologies question, health and safety, and being able to access high quality deposits.
Yeah. And what would you say some of the biggest achievements the company has achieved in obviously your sort of 3 or 4 years that you've been in existence?
Oh, there would be a very long list of what I'm very proud of. But I would say, if I would have to sum it up a bit for the sake of our conversation, I would say it's really the team and the culture that we have. We're very international, very age and gender diverse team that thrives on the challenges and the frustration. Because for us, for example, you know, when COVID started, like our business was very offline. So how it used to work is that me and my team, we used to travel to sites, we used to showcase our solutions at trade fairs all over the world. And then suddenly in March last year, all stopped. So it was like, how can we proceed? And we overcome that. Actually, we had the biggest sort of like new clients growth of sales pipeline growth during the last 12 months. So this is something that I'm very, very proud of, that we achieved this. And at the same time that we kept our culture very customer and team centric, because that's what it helps to build the necessary trust and relationship. Because as I said, the mining industry is not only conservative when it comes to new technologies, also when it comes to new partners. And you first have to build a relationship and really convince that you will be there for the mine. Because, for example, the mines that right now they work with us, they trust us because they need our technology to run their process. And if we are an unreliable partner, they will have a huge issue in the process. And I think this is, one of the things that I'm most proud of is to have the team that enabled us to build these relationships and serve these customers.
Yeah, certainly. And what are some of the, I suppose, the technical obstacles that you've had to overcome over the last few years?
Yeah, the technical obstacles are, of course, you know, like I think it's like like an exponential Murphy's law, because in mining is a very demanding environment when it comes to technology. You have different operators, different backgrounds. You have very challenging conditions. We have sometimes our technology is like our solutions they use somewhere in the Colombian jungle or like in the Peruvian Andes, and it has to work everywhere the same way. So that was something that, you know, you obviously cannot you cannot really achieve that without, you know, testing it. And this is not something that we can do in our lab here in Switzerland. So we had to do a lot of, you know, tests and on-site trials, which turned out really well. On the other hand, obstacles, maybe less of a technical nature, but we already spoken about it, is this, you know, being a bit wary about unknown suppliers and new innovation. And I think this was actually the hardest thing, because at the same time, you know, if you want to acquire funding, you know, to grow a company, to hire people, to build our technology, you need investors. And what investors usually look for is they look for sales. And, you know, when you're in an industry where it takes you a very long time to build a relationship and to get to first sales, funding can be scarce, especially in countries like Switzerland, where you don't have a very big mining technology industry. And that's something that we could overcome by now, but it's still something, you know, like there's maybe like less than half a dozen of mining technology companies in Switzerland. So we're in a very, very niche. But now that we have this commercial traction, we have these customers all over the world that use our technology. That has helped us a lot to solve a lot of the problems that we had at the beginning.
Yeah, no worries. And as a, I suppose, a conclusion, where do you see the company in the next, I suppose, 3 to 5 years and possibly beyond? What is your sort of vision and your, I suppose, bigger outlook?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think I will start with, you know, like the more short-term mission in a way. So what we set out to become is we become the gold standard for cyanide monitoring in the mining industry. So that really, you know, if you need support, if you need expert advice, if you need a product solution to improve your process, that you come to CyanoGuard. That's sort of like the, let's say, like short-term goal in the next 1 to 2 years. Then as a second priority is that we move this cyanide monitoring process to a more digital and intelligent way. So we already have a platform that some of our clients use to view their process, but we want to take it a step further, that the platform actually uses, it's an algorithm that we're currently working on that helps mine managers to automatically improve their process, so that with the data rolling in, our platform will, with the help of artificial intelligence, tell the manager, the process manager, how to improve their process. So like decision support, saying, well, you need more cyanide, you need less cyanide, you need to adjust your pH, and that will help them to capitalize even more on, you know, more metal recovery, less cyanide, and also decrease environmental impact. And then really in the long term is we want to become the solution provider for the entire mining industry. So at the moment, we're really focused on gold and silver. We would like to expand that to the also more base metal applications like copper, zinc, and iron ore. Because I think the mining industry as a whole can be very different when it comes to the technical process, but the challenges, they're similar. And I think when we can sort of like make a proof of concept that we're become the gold standard in the gold mining industry, we can take this a step further to also have the same impact in other metal mining industries.
Yeah, certainly. And it seems you're definitely heading in the right direction anyway. And I suppose, obviously concluding, I think, I suppose your product is going to be, I suppose, increasingly needed definitely for recoveries. And if you can gain that little 1 or 2%, that's going to make a big difference to a lot of mining companies, obviously, when they're processing their materials. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners, whether they're business owners, whether they're general managers, mine managers, or even the processing guys, process guys, metallurgy guys, I'm sure they'll be listening. And if they want to reach out to you, if they've got any questions they want to ask, how can they go about doing that? Are you on any social media platforms as well?
Rob, could you repeat the question? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. As I was just saying, a lot of our listeners, whether they're in the processing in the processing plant, whether they're processing guys, metallurgy guys, also if they're business owners or general managers of sites. I'm sure they'd be sure they'd be interested in knowing more about your product, because I think, like I said, if you can get that 1 or 2% increase in obviously the resource through certain technologies, I'm sure they'll be open to listening. So if they want to reach out to you, have you got what social media platforms are you on, and how can they go about contacting you?
Yeah, so actually there's plenty of solutions. So you can just give us a call. That would be the first possibility. Otherwise, they can reach out to us on LinkedIn or on Twitter, or directly go on our homepage. We've got a chat there. Or probably the most straightforward way is just drop us an email at mining.solutions@cyanoguard.com, and we'll be happy to to talk with anyone that's interested to learn more or how to optimize the process.
Yes, certainly, and we'll include those in the show notes accompanying this podcast. So appreciate if you've got any questions, reach out to Benedikt, and I'm sure he'll be able to answer your questions and obviously resolve some of the issues and problems that you have. Really appreciate your time in give us an overview of the product, and for those that are listening, appreciate your support. Appreciate again if you can pass this episode on to other people within the mining industry, and especially other people who are working in the process plants, because you never know, some of them could be facing particular challenges, and I'm sure this product may be able to help them. So appreciate you keep sharing and liking these episodes, whether you're watching this on the YouTube. Appreciate if you can like and share below. And obviously on the podcast, just keep talking to your friends about this podcast so we can increase the reach, and so more people have access to this podcast, and obviously educating the industry. So really appreciate your time, Benedikt, again. And until next time, happy mining.